everybody, it's DC back with another In RE vlog. Today we're going to do the recap and review of the January 6th House Select Committee public hearing. This is day 6. Tuesday, June 28th. This was it wasn't that it was unplanned, but it was impromptu. We thought after day 5 of the hearing that the January 6th committee was going to take a little bit of a break, maybe a week or two. But as was stated, they are still getting new information all the time. So in light of some new information, they called an impromptu hearing for day 6. So if you guys could like, comment, and subscribe on the video if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, you can follow. I think you can like the video as well and subscribe in Twitch land. If you're listening on a podcast, follow the podcast. Also, this is a pre-recording. If you're watching on one of the video streaming services, it will stream as live, but it is a pre-recording. I did remember to put it rolling down at the bottom of your screen. And if you're listening to the podcast, of course, it's always a pre-recording. Anyway, that's all I have for announcements, church announcements. Let's get into day 6. So, day 6 of the hearing is called impromptu, and there's only one. Let me double check and make sure. There's only one panelist or witness that's going to be heard today. Her name is Cassidy Hutchinson. She was, they don't call her a senior aide, but she was one of the principal aides for Mark Meadows. Apparently, she was always in the room every time he had something. Her office was a few doors down from the Oval Office, and I think across from Mark Meadows' office, maybe. So this is someone who was very much in the midst. She is a conservative, a Republican. She's worked for House member Steve Scalise before. She's worked for Ted Cruz in some capacity. Apparently, I won't say recently, she's changed counsel throughout the course of this, throughout the course of the fallout from January 6th. She had a Trump-backed counsel. Now she has a former DOJ official as an independent counsel. And this new attorney that she has is in some way connected to Jeff Sessions. You guys know my opinion of Jeff Sessions. He was one of the first people that stood up to Trump, and he was treated horribly for that, but he was a very principled individual in a moment where it was tough. So if he's backed by Jeff Sessions, I'm saying she's doing good. She's like 25 or 26 years old. And in light of again, as we get into the recap and review of the hearing, in light of new information, they called the hearing. So we open up with Chairman Benny Thompson, Democrat from Mississippi. He gives the opening. He reiterates that in light of new information, we are getting new information each time. We decided that we need to call this hearing. And he said that this decision was made in consultation with the Vice Chair, Liz Cheney. He briefly introduces the witness, very brief, and then he passes. He gives Liz Cheney, the Vice Chair, some time to speak. She gives a slight intro. She mentions same thing. Hutchinson worked with Scalise, and she was a senior or a principal aide to the Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows. And so how these hearings normally go is we start the day. The chair, Benny Thompson, gives a introduction. The Vice Chair, Liz Cheney, she gives us a recap, and she tells us what the goal, she gives the layout, what the goal of the hearing today is. Today, she says we depart a little bit because Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony kind of crosses over a few different things, a few different points. So this is just kind of a layup to a cap on the previous hearings and then a layup to what's coming next. Good break. So she then yields back to Chairman Benny Thompson so he can swear in the witness and give her a formal introduction. And then Benny Thompson does her formal background, formal bio. He shows pictures of her with Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan, and a picture of her on board Air Force One with the president. So then the questions start. This hearing was also a little bit more like a typical committee hearing in that she was questioned throughout. She gave actual witness panelist testimony rather than just production. So they ask her kind of to describe a typical day. And she says, it's hard to describe a typical day. It just depended on what was going on. This is when they show a cutaway, an overhead cutaway of where her office is located in relation to the Oval Office. I understand transparency in government, but why are we showing so many public cutaways of the White House, like on national TV in public? And I'm sure that they leave some things out. But it's that balancing like security with information. And I just feel like they also showed a picture from her office up the hallway to the Oval Office. To me, the picture was way more impactful. It showed the distance way more relative to the human eye. I just feel like we did not need a cutaway of the White House to demonstrate that her office was in close quarters. So they go on to Liz Cheney, and I seem to have in my notes that Liz Cheney kind of led the questioning for most of the day. So if I don't say who was questioning, let's just maybe assume it was Liz Cheney, because I think she kind of led the questioning. So she asked a few questions and about January 2nd, when Trump met with Giuliani, and Cassidy Hutchinson says that, oh, excuse me, you guys. Cassidy Hutchinson says that after the meeting, Giuliani kind of seen her maybe in passing and said, oh, are you excited for January 6th? It's going to be a big day. And she said she kind of was like, oh, Rudy, big day, what do you mean it's going to be a big day? And Giuliani was like, oh, it's going to be big. Just ask the chief. I'm assuming the chief is Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Ask the chief. He knows all about it. So she says that, she just had it wasn't the normal conversation that she kind of thought she would had. And she said that was the first time that she started to get a little bit of a bad feeling that, something may not go right. She says that, she was apprehensive kind of leading up, but after that conversation, she really kind of, those feelings elevated. So then we start to focus a little bit on January 5th, I think. And so they mix in her testimony in person, and she's provided video depositions extensively, it seems like. So they mix a little bit in. I'm gonna be honest. The public hearing is impactful. Having her in person is impactful, but in the interest of government resources and in the interest of the fact that I'm not seeing what in terms of accountability or discipline is going to come out of these. And I hope I'm wrong, but I wish if they had everything they needed and she's so willing to give depositions, then just show the depositions. Just show the depo. Break it up, produce it up, yada, yada. Or, one or the other, but whatever. So they show some video from her deposition where she was speaking on Director Ratcliffe about how, I don't know, he didn't want Trump to post something. And then there was audio of Donahue saying, anytime there's tens of thousands of people in DC, there's cause for concern. Cheney comes back and says the White House had been receiving updates about planned events, and Proud Boy and Oath Keeper particular planned demonstrations for January 6th. And they show more video of Hutchinson, and she says she recalled hearing about the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers close to January 6th. I guess more so in White House conversations. Maybe not she was involved in conversations, but more so around her than she had before in the White House. So let's see. They show some footage of the Capitol Police, audio of the Capitol Police. Like, how you hear police audio saying, oh, there's a suspect moving south, that type of audio. And as they're IDing these threats, they're saying, oh, this one has a weapon, this one's an AR-15, yada, yada. They show more video of Hutchinson's testimony where she said that Mr. Arevando, somebody told her that, relayed to her that Trump knew that there were weapons at the Capitol on January 6th. And Mark Meadows did not act on those concerns. This is her testimony. She says that she remembers that Donald Trump was very upset. So January 6th, Donald Trump gave a speech on the Ellipse in front of a crowd of people, a little rally he gave. That in itself just is okay. But she says that when they arrived at the rally, she said Donald Trump was very upset that there was extra space in the crowd, like it wasn't as full as he wanted it to be. And she goes that they were, asking him about he was like, why is there extra space? And they said, well, there's, the spacing is not an issue. There's people there, but, there's more people there. It's just that they don't want to go through the magnetometers, the things that detect if you have, weapons or not. But so she said that there was a lot of people there, but they were getting reports that people didn't want to go through the magnetometers, and they were saying, oh, we'll just stand back. We can see them from here. We'll just stand back. And they said Trump told them, well, they don't have to go through the magnetometers. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they were like, but, they have weapons. He said, well, they're not here to hurt me. Okay. She says that it was relayed repeatedly to him that the capacity was fine. There was tens of thousands of people there. The issue was they didn't want to go through the magnetometers. And so that's why there was space in the crowd. He insisted that, they fill up the space, they take away the magnetometers. I have a problem with this. I don't care what he was the president of that day. Some things don't make sense. You know that the president of our country is about to speak before a crowd, and he's telling you, oh, they don't have to go through the weapons check. Take down the weapons check. No, simple as that. I wouldn't have took down nothing. Nobody should have. They did end up removing the magnetometers because the crowd was full. They shouldn't have done that. They should not have done that, plain and simple. And I get, this idea of following orders and all this, some stuff is just not it brings me back to A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise. And at the end, the one soldier's like, what did we do wrong? And the other soldier's like, we were supposed to protect him. That's an order we weren't supposed to follow. And at this point, y'all weren't supposed to take those magnetometers away. If not even for the safety of the president, other people in the crowd being that close to a joint session of Congress, I would have told him what you can go do with yourself. What you can go do with yourself. I'm not taking away any magnetometers. And I would have told everybody else, don't take away any magnetometers. And then had they kicked me out the car or kicked me out the White House or fired me that day, I would have went in front of a camera and told the camera exactly what was going on with the magnetometers. Yeah, I would have. Yeah, snitching. Yeah, I would have did it. Yep, told all of it. Everybody. Anybody who listened, I would have. Yeah, I wasn't told. Makes no sense. So we get back to her testimony, and she says that in the lead up to the president's speech on January 6th, she says there are many conversations about the rhetoric of the speech. You know, officials have speech writers, and the president has speech writers, and even if you have a president that's a very gifted orator or a gifted writer, he still has other people in the room, and they just help edit things and drive, fine tune things, whatever. She said there was a lot of conversations about the rhetoric in the speech, the fight with me, um, you know, make them listen and all that kind of insinuatory speech, she says at the time, which normally, fight with me wouldn't be insinuatory, but I think that there was more information leading up that made that not it context. So there was a memo put out. Is this the memo? No, not the memo. So basically that part of the questioning was just that there was concerns about the speech, and the writers were told not to include some of that language in the speech for January 6th. And I think he went off script, whatever. There was a memo put out about the level of security that was going to be needed. And clearly it wasn't followed, or clearly someone didn't care, because we know that one of the issues was inadequate preparedness. If I'm not too done, I'm going to hopefully touch on that at the end of the video about that security issue. Hutchinson goes on to say that there was conversations with Pat Cipollone about, we need to stop this. And she said Meadows was kind of pushing to kind of go on with the mess. And, there was concerns about obstruction of justice. She remembers clearly that concern. And she said there's another concern that she's not an attorney, but she kind of remembers to the effect of defrauding an electoral count. But, she doesn't know if that's the proper charge, violation, or whatever. They showed more video of her. She says that, they show a video of the president driving to the Capitol after the speech. He was in, they refer to it as the Beast. And again, all these nicknames that we like are just publicizing how we do things. Oh, we call it this. Oh, it's called this. Something about that doesn't sit right with me. What else do they show? They show, we hear like a security radio. We hear audio of someone saying that mogul. Oh, no. This was a call or conversations he's recalling where someone's saying mogul's going to the Capitol. I guess that was the president's nickname. If I'm not mistaken, we always get what the president's nickname, Secret Service nickname is, like after the presidency. So that's not that unusual. She says that. So now we're more talking about the actual January 6th event. And Hutchinson says in her testimony that she was in the tent behind the stage. And she said it's the way that the event and the stage is kind of set up. When you're in the tent behind the stage, you can't really hear what's going on in front of you. She said she got a call from McCarthy, who called her and said, what are you doing? I told you, you told me, you promised you weren't coming to the Capitol. Why'd you lie? What are you doing? And so she said, she was like, Paul, what are you talking about? I don't know anything about going to the Capitol. And Paul McCarthy is telling her, or the representative is McCarthy is telling her, why do I keep calling him Paul? Representative McCarthy. I don't think his name is Paul, but McCarthy is telling her, he just said it. We just seen it on TV. It just said it. And she's like, okay, well, let me see what's going on. I'll call you back. Hutchinson said after then she called Mr. Arnado, And she reconfirmed that the president was not going to the Capitol after the speech. And the plan was, no, he's not going up to the Capitol. So then they show committee video, and apparently there was different ideas about what the president wanted to do if he made it to the Capitol. And they had been planning before. This was Hutchinson is saying, apparently there had been plans about, like, the president would give his speech at the Ellipse, he would go to the Capitol, and then at the Capitol he would also maybe make another speech or something like that. And that was a no. So there were other people who had their mind made up that they weren't going to get him to the Capitol. So he's in the presidential vehicle. They keep calling it the Beast, but apparently it wasn't the Beast. They show a video of it. It was the presidential, like, SUV, Suburban, or whatever they call it. And when he gets in the vehicle, Secret Service told him he wasn't going to the Capitol. Simple as that. He's not going. So we get back to Hutchinson's testimony, and she said when because she didn't ride in the same vehicle with them. When she got back to the Capitol, Mr. Arnado kind of waved her into his office. No, maybe Bobby Engel's office. Anyways, they ended up having a conversation, and they're saying, hey, did you effing hear what happened in the Beast, the vehicle the president was in? It wasn't the actual Beast. And she's like, no, what happened? Apparently, and this was kind of the kicker. Apparently, when Donald Trump got in his motorcade, they told him that he wasn't going to the Capitol. They said Donald Trump got irate about it. And they repeatedly told him, no, sir, you're going back to the West Wing. So Donald Trump allegedly reached for the wheel. I'm gonna stop right there. They should have popped him. There should have been an altercation in the car when he reached for the wheel. That's unhinged. That's unhinged. I don't care if he was the president. That's unhinged. So he reached for the wheel. They kind of, no, don't do that. And then I guess he lunged at Bobby Engel. I had a hard time because I just feel like I don't care how tall he was. I don't care if he was the president. He lunged at somebody in that car over somebody trying to tell him, no, sir, Mr. President, we're going to get you back to the West Wing. That vehicle should have been moving for a completely different reason. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense. However, what I will say is, again, maybe too little too late, but there were people standing up to him. So they show, and then Cassidy Hutchinson, they ask her, has anyone ever told you that this did not happen? And she says, no one's ever confirmed to me that this didn't happen in the car. So they show a video depo of Kayleigh McEnany, former White House press secretary. And she says that she knows that Trump did want it to be, he wanted to march with them up to the Capitol. He wanted to be with the march. They show video of Cassidy Hutchinson, and she says she overheard Meadows basically still trying to work on coordinated movement of the president to the Capitol. And people basically told Meadows, no, we're not coordinating any movement. He's not going to the Capitol. He's going to stay in the West Wing. So Hutchinson says that there was an incident. He got upset at some point during this and it threw dishes. I didn't pay attention to the details of this particular incident, even though she gave them. What I paid attention to is when she said, well, this isn't really the first time he's done this. He sometimes flips tablecloth so that all the stuff falls on the floor and, you know, that type of stuff. Y'all, do y'all know that I would have been brought up on charges? Do you know that wouldn't have worked for me? That's a problem. That tantrum, that behavior starts at home. And if this isn't the first time he's done this, again, my issue is all y'all people who wanted to resign and quit, you should have been invoking the 25th Amendment to get him up out of there if he's throwing dishes and stuff because he's upset. It doesn't make any sense. I just don't see where they do that at. Excuse me one moment. I have to plug up my device. So then they show a video deposition testimony of Bill Barr saying that during his resignation meeting with Trump was pounding his fist on the table, acting a fool. I just don't understand people. I used to work for someone like that, and I didn't stay there that long. It's not okay. So they take a 10-minute recess. They come back. Liz Cheney picks up with the questions again. She led the questions this day. So Ms. Hutchinson says that Trump had asked Meadows to call Stone or something. And apparently, no, sorry. Strike back, reverse it. So they shift gears here. And on January 5th, there was something going on at the Willard Hotel. Liz Cheney basically asked her, do you know if there was a war room set up in the Willard Hotel? And she says, yes. From what she's heard, there was. Okay, so let me explain what a war room is, or the concept of a war room. I know that I worked for a firm that handled like big cases. I don't even think it's just when attorneys do big cases, but in the midst of trial, attorneys will book like their personal rooms that they sleep in. And then there's one room that's just for like strategy and documents and going over things. And they call that the war room. So that didn't, that in and of itself didn't really, I didn't find that egregious, only because I do know that they were working on court cases. So, okay, yeah, maybe you guys did have some place. Now, what I found was a little odd was, well, I guess he had outside counsel at this point. So, yeah, they would have needed to be off-site. Whatever. So it was repeatedly made clear again to Meadows that they didn't think it was a good idea for Trump to go up to the Capitol, and there was going to be no more movement. And I think she said at some point someone kind of told him stop asking. So we get to a committee video of Michael Flynn's deposition. He pled the fifth the whole time. Probably a good idea. We get back to video footage of Ms. Cassie Hutchinson's testimony, and we're back on the actual day of January 6th. So Meadows is kind of, she said she sees what's going on the TV a little bit at this point. And she goes in Meadows' office and she's like, are you watching the TV? And she said that has his head down. He's looking, scrolling through his phone, not really paying attention. And she said she kind of got frustrated and wanted him to snap out of it. And she said, well, Mark, did you check in with Jim Jordan? Do you know how he's doing? And she said she just wanted to say something to make him snap out of it. And he's like, well, why? What do you mean? She's like, well, do you see what's going on? And he's still got his phone in his hand. He's not really doing nothing. She says that Pat Cipollone comes in the office and he's saying, Meadows, we need to go to the president now. He has to stop this. She says that Mark says he doesn't want to do anything about it. And she says, Pat Cipollone said there's going to be blood on your effing hands. So they eventually leave. And then there was like brief communications, check in with Jim. If he calls, Jim Jordan ended up calling. So Hutchinson said she heard, you know, the discussions of them telling President Trump that, hey, they're chanting hang Mike Pence and, you know, this and that and the third. And she said she further heard Meadows say, you heard it, Pat. He doesn't want to do anything. He thinks he deserves it. So they show an ABC interview with President Trump, and he's asked about, this is production type stuff, and he's asked about the hang Mike Pence chant. And Trump kind of evades the question and goes on to, well, you can't do this. The election was stolen, yada, yada, yada. Liz Cheney makes a point to say, even after everything, Trump still, you know, is not apologizing or is not acknowledging that Mike Pence was in danger. So on January 6th, supposedly after Trump knew, you know, what was going on, that the protesters were a little riled up, because what happened on January 6th was Donald Trump gave his speech on the ellipse and said, oh, Mike Pence needs to help me out, yada, yada. And then Mike Pence put out a tweet saying, no, I've talked to my counsel in my faith. That's not something I'm going to be doing. And then the rioters heard it, the insurrectionists heard it, and, you know, you see videos of them all over the internet saying, oh, we heard Pence was a traitor and this and then the third. So after this, Trump put out a tweet saying Mike Pence didn't have courage. So further inciting people that apparently he knew were already, you know, a little bit excited. So we get back to in-person testimony. Cassie Hutchinson says that as a staffer, she said she was just very frustrated by that tweet. She says that, you know, she felt disgusted as a person, as an American. She said she just felt defeated. All of this was happening over a lie. They show video, depo of Mike Possinger, a staffer, and he said that they showed him the tweet, or someone printed out the tweet about Mike Pence. And he said at that point, that's when he made the decision to resign. He was done. So Liz Cheney talks about the cabinet resignations after this. All these people, Betsy DeVos, and Cho. I'm pretty sure that's Mitch McConnell's wife. And again, I have not knowing the extent of how long this had been going on, because this had started before the election, this behavior. Not knowing the extent of how long this was going, it was kind of easy to say, well, you don't like it, leave. But at a certain point, I feel like it was very cowardly for all of this. Oh, I'm just going to leave after you've allowed this behavior for so long. No, just leave. There's 25th Amendment. Find out who all is in agreements with you guys. That go tell somebody. And some of these people just left with just like a few little cute oh, I just don't agree, so I'm bowing out. You should have snitched. You should have snitched immediately. We live in this country like you live in this country. This country isn't just for one group of people, it's for everybody. It'll affect you eventually. We don't have a country. All the problems that we are dealing with in this country will be 1,000 times more exacerbated if we do not have a country, if we do not have a working democracy. So I'm starting to have a problem with all these people. Oh, I resigned. Oh, I just left. Oh, I can't support it anymore. It's starting to get on my nerves. So then Cassidy Hutchinson goes on to talk about that there was a group of people trying to tell Trump to take action. This included Eric Hirschman, Ivanka Trump, White House counsel's office. And then there was a neutral group that was kind of trying to toe the line. And then there was a group that she calls the deflect and blame group. And she says she believes that Mark Meadows started on the deflect and the deflect and blame group wanted to blame Antifa. They said, oh, just tell them it's not us. Just blame Antifa. And she says that Mark Meadows kind of started on the deflect and blame side. But then after he kind of tried to be one of the people that told the line. So, very cowardly. Very cowardly. Sad day. So then she goes, Cassidy Hutchinson goes on to say, at some point, Mark Meadows kind of began to dictate to her a statement. And I think the implication is this was a statement that they were going to try to get the president to put out. Because like Ivanka wanted Trump to say something. So she says that he ended up putting a statement out, but not this one. There's a text chain that they show between Laura Ingraham and Mark Meadows, with Laura Ingraham telling him, we lose all credibility between the Black Lives Matter and Antifa crowd, like basically telling him, get this under control. Again, complicity. This behavior by Donald Trump did not happen overnight. This is very incremental, and it had been happening a while. And nobody wanted to stand up to him. I don't understand why. Accountability. Nobody wanted to say anything because everybody was so worried about kissing up and getting checks. I've said it in a few videos before. This January 6th stuff that happened, this is our generation's, the Kool-Aid incident. Was it Jim Jones or who was it? The cult, that Kool-Aid stuff that happened. This is our generation's version of that. That where you, after you're watching it going, what was wrong with y'all? How did you guys get here? Where did we fail as a society to get you here? That's what this is. So they show audio. I'm pretty sure this was audio of at CBS News of McCarthy in the moment of January 6th, completely condemning, the actions and saying this is unacceptable and yada, yada. There's a tweet video that Mike Gallagher shared saying from his office telling Trump, you need to call this off. The United States is more important than any politician. And then at 4:17 p.m., that's when Donald Trump came out and told, and this had been going on for a long time between we got here. At 4:17 p.m., they showed Donald Trump a little video where he told them to go home and he thanked them. I wish y'all could see the face I made. He thanks them and he tells them they're special and to go home. And it's just ridiculous. They show more committee video deposition of Hutchinson, and she says that she was just disgusted. She says she just remembers being very disgusted, and she remembers that Trump was he was basically pushed into making a statement. He did not want to make a statement. They show, let me see. Was this a text? I can't remember if it was a text or if there was a line of questioning, but basically we find out that the cabinet was considering invoking the 25th Amendment. And my question to them is, why didn't you? Why didn't you? I think that we shouldn't have even got to a second impeachment trial. They should have invoked the 25th Amendment, and we shouldn't have even gotten to that point. But here we are. I don't care if it was 24 hours before the inauguration, 2 hours before the inauguration. I don't care what the time frame was. They should have invoked the 25th Amendment instead of all that, oh, we resigned. Oh, we're done now. Oh, we just can't accept this any longer. We throw our hands up and leave it to everybody else to deal with. Ridiculous. They show a text thread between Hannity and Kayleigh McEnany. Hannity's telling her, look, tell him to knock it off. They show on January 6th. So on January 7th, so this is after the insurrection, after the 6th, there was a push for Trump to put out another statement. Like they wanted him to speak again. We know he didn't do that. He went on about his business. Then they show more committee video of Cassidy Hutchinson. She says Trump didn't want them to think he didn't want them to think that they had did something wrong on January 6th is what I got out of that. He wanted to pardon the rioters, that they didn't do anything wrong. He still thought that Pence was wrong. This is after weapons, after beating Capitol Police, after, barricading the Capitol, after senators and congressmen hiding in their offices and under their desks and stuff like that. This is after Mike Pence has to be swept away to some secret location because he's the next line in succession. He's in danger. This is after, not only was Mike Pence there, but Nancy Pelosi and Scalise and all these other people in the line. I think Chuck Grassley is in the line too, maybe. All these people. After all of this, after them putting a gallows in the crowd, after everything that went down, he still think Pence was wrong and he didn't want, he wanted to pardon rioters. So she says she's not sure who or when, but at some point they convinced him to say something on the 7th, I think. Or they didn't. I don't remember him saying anything on the 7th. At that point, I probably was fed up. And she says that at the same point, the 25th was very much in concern. I just still really just feel like they should have done it. It shouldn't have been, we're thinking about doing the 25th. You should have did it after all this. So, okay, so he did. On January 7th, he ultimately did deliver a little speech, a little 1-2 step. And he still did not say that the election was over. They said that the speech that he wanted to give, he wanted to talk about pardons. And they were basically telling him no, and no. It couldn't have been me. We would have recorded him talking. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't even. At that point, it would have been 25th. At that point, it would have been 25th. You're not speaking. We're done with you. We're done. We're done. So Hutchinson says that Giuliani and Mark Meadows had asked about pardons for themselves before. It's ridiculous. So then Liz Cheney gives her closing. I think Benny Thompson said a few words, and then Liz Cheney gives her closing. And this was very enlightening. She says that, she said that the oaths that they take have to mean something. A difference between right and wrong has to mean something. She thanks Cassidy Hutchinson for being very brave and coming forward with the information. And she says an alarming trend has come up. When they talk to witnesses, they are finding out that before the witnesses come in, or before they're called to come, before they come in for their depositions, they have people reach out to them that are saying, as long as you continue to be a team player, or Donald Trump reads transcripts, he knows you're really loyal. And she reminds everybody that witness tampering is very serious. As an attorney, very, 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 very seriously. And yeah, that's witness tampering. I don't care how they want to clean it up and, he's just telling them that it's witness tampering at the very least. Get them for something. So then Benny Thompson gives a little bit of a scathing closing for day 6. He says that to the small number of people who maybe they've been trying to attempt to hide, or they don't want to appear, or they have some type of fear, he says, if we're not done taking information. So maybe if you remember something a little better than you did before, maybe if you want to come in and clarify something, or maybe if you found some courage to come say something, please continue to come forward. So one thing in closing that happened after Cassidy Hutchinson gave her testimony is people were saying she wasn't even in the car or the room when she's saying all this. Well, if you listen to her testimony, listen with your ears. Put your thinking cap on and listen with your ears. She said these things were relayed to her. And so then these news pundits keep saying, well, that's hearsay. Yeah, if we were in a court of law, it would be hearsay. So if this stuff ever gets into a court of law, these things are considered investigatory things at this point. There is no hearsay for investigations. What they would then have to do at the point that these things are in a court of law is figure out what is admissible, what is not, you know, what can come in and what can't come in. But these things form facts for basis of an investigation. They might have to find more information to corroborate some of this, but that's not unheard of. So yeah, if you're in a Senate House committee hearing, you're not bound by the rules of hearsay. You're in a court of law, yeah, you probably are. I would remind everybody that hearsay has a ton of exceptions. You think it can't get in until it's in. Anyway, that was day 6. I think we are expected for the committee to take actually a little bit of a recess and come back. Lots of information here. A sad day. We're now finding out that it was a lot worse than what we knew. It was bad. We didn't know it was this bad. Anyway, just in closing, guys, go to www.inreblawg.com. You can check us out on YouTube, Twitch, Podbean, Spotify. I think we're on Google Podcasts now. If we're not on your podcasting service, go to www.inreblawg.com. Shoot us a contact message and we'll try to get, I say me. There is no we. But I'll try to see about getting the podcast on that if you're interested in it. And stay informed. I will be following these hearings. Until next time, bye.